abandoned, beaten, and buried alive. But a miracle happened when another dog found her. In the quiet countryside of Oregon, USA, lived Caleb Morris, a 34-year-old former soldier. After leaving the military, he returned home with emotional wounds that hadn't quite healed. To cope with the creeping depression and sleepless nights caused by PTSD, Caleb turned to nature and to Rusty, a loyal golden retriever who had been his companion for many years. Rusty was no ordinary dog. He had once been trapped in an abusive breeding facility, left to suffer in cages. After being rescued, it had taken him months to learn to trust again. Perhaps because of this shared pain, Rusty had developed a deep instinct for recognizing suffering, especially in those who couldn't speak for themselves. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Caleb and Rusty walked their usual forest trail near Sable Creek, something unexpected happened. Rusty suddenly froze in his tracks. To Caleb, everything looked normal, but the golden retriever's nose twitched as he let out a low whine and began digging urgently at the base of a rotting tree. Caleb frowned and approached his furry friend. "What is it, Rusty?" he asked, concern creeping into his voice. As the dirt gave way beneath their hands and paws, Caleb's heart began to race. Buried under the damp soil was a fraying burlap sack. The moment he touched it, the sack twitched. Fear surged through him as he tore it open, and inside was a tiny German Shepherd puppy, soaked, filthy, and barely breathing. Gray-black fur was matted with mud, and its lifeless eyes barely opened. Without a moment's hesitation, Caleb stripped off his jacket, wrapped the puppy up, and raced to his truck. The nearest veterinary clinic was 15 minutes away, and every second counted. As they drove, Rusty sat quietly in the passenger seat, his eyes never leaving the tiny life curled in Caleb's arms. At the clinic, the veterinarian acted quickly. Confirming Caleb's worst fears, the puppy had been buried alive, likely after long-term abuse. Severely dehydrated, underweight, and clearly traumatized, the pup had no microchip, no identity, no one looking for him. "This little one has been through hell," the vet murmured, her voice heavy with sadness. Physically and mentally. Caleb couldn't bring himself to leave. He stayed that night, watching over the fragile puppy. Rusty never left the glass wall of the kennel, sitting quietly beside it. Oddly, the puppy didn't react to people but didn't seem afraid of Rusty. He simply lay still, hollow-eyed, as if his soul hadn't caught up with his body. In that moment of connection, Caleb decided to name him Ash, for the gray color of his coat and the haunting emptiness in his eyes. The early days were hard, harder than Caleb could have imagined. Ash wouldn't eat if anyone was nearby. He avoided all touch and turned his face to the wall. Some of the clinic staff suspected canine autism, a condition seen in dogs who had suffered intense neglect and abuse. Ash didn't respond to voices, movement, or other dogs. It was as if the world no longer existed to him. But Rusty didn't give up, not for a single moment. Every day, Rusty would sit silently beside Ash's kennel, placing toys at the door or lying down with his head gently touching the glass. He never barked. He never pushed. He simply waited, a silent guardian offering comfort through his presence alone. On the 5th day, something small but miraculous happened. Ash inched closer to the glass and rested against it close enough to feel Rusty on the other side. That was the first step, a tiny glimmer of hope in the darkness. Encouraged by this progress, Caleb asked the vet if he could take both dogs to the back garden for short visits. She agreed with the condition that Rusty always be present, recognizing the special bond forming between the two dogs. In the garden, Ash would hide beneath Rusty's belly, seeking safety in the older dog's presence. But over time, he began following Rusty's cues, walking a few steps, sniffing grass, watching squirrels. He didn't trust the world, but he trusted Rusty. A beautiful pattern emerged. Rusty Atosh would eat. Rusty Walktosh would follow. Rusty barked softly. Ash would tilt his head, curious about the sound. Caleb watched in quiet awe, realizing a profound truth. He wasn't healing Ash. Rusty was. 1 month passed, and Ash began holding his head higher. He still didn't bark, but his eyes had light in them now, no longer turned to the wall when humans approached. One day, as Caleb reached toward him, Ash licked his hand just once. It was enough to make Caleb cry, overwhelmed by the simple gesture of trust. "You're coming back, little one?" he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Soon Caleb began taking Ash and Rusty home during the day. The peaceful countryside became a refuge for all three of them. Caleb didn't train Ash in the traditional sense. He simply let him be, just like Rusty did, allowing the traumatized pup to heal at his own pace. By week 8, something truly miraculous happened. At sunset, as the golden light bathed the yard, Rusty rolled a soft ball across the grass. Ash followed it with his eyes, and then suddenly he pounced on it and ran. Caleb watched, stunned, as Ash played for the first time. It was awkward and clumsy. But it was play, real joyful play. With hands shaking slightly, Caleb took a photo of Ash, with ears perked, eyes alert, and just the hint of a smile on his little face. It was a moment he wanted to remember forever. 3 months after that fateful day in the forest, Caleb officially adopted Ash, making him a permanent part of their little family. At the final vet checkup, the doctor smiled, her eyes shining with pride and amazement. "He didn't just survive," she said, looking at Ash. "He came back to life." And then, something unexpected happened. Something that would stay with Caleb for the rest of his life. Driving home that day, Caleb heard a small, raspy sound behind him. He turned and saw Ash sitting in the back seat, looking at him with bright, alert eyes. Ash had barked. It wasn't loud, it wasn't strong, but it was real. Caleb pulled over to the side of the road and turned around, his heart pounding with excitement and disbelief. Ash looked at him, tongue out, tail wagging just slightly. It was as if he was saying, "Did you hear that?" "I did it," Caleb laughed, tears burning his eyes. Rusty barked in return, a proud echo that seemed to say, "That's my boy." In that moment, Caleb saw the full arc of this miracle. He understood the depth of what had happened over these past months. Rusty didn't just find a buried soul. He reached Ash's heart, showing him that the world could be safe and kind. Caleb gave him a home, a place to heal and grow. And Ash the puppy, who had once been left for dead, had found his voice, his joy, and his reason to live. It's not just through medicine or rescue, but through another soul who had once needed saving too. As they continued their drive home, Caleb couldn't help but reflect on the journey they had all taken together. Rusty didn't just dig through soil that day in the forest. He uncovered a life, spark of hope that had been buried beneath layers of fear and pain. Caleb didn't just adopt a dog. He rebuilt a heart, offering patience, love, and a safe space for Ash to rediscover his own strength. And Ash, once silenced by cruelty, now runs and barks and plays in the sun. His transformation was a testament to the resilience of the spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope can take root and grow. Because sometimes, healing doesn't come from people. It comes from one soul who's been broken, showing another how to live again. In the quiet moments, in the gentle touches, in the silent understanding between two dogs who had both known pain, a miracle had unfolded. As they pulled into the driveway of their home, Caleb looked at his two dogs in the rearview mirror. Rusty, the wise and patient guardian; Ash, the survivor, learning to trust again. And himself, a man who had found healing in the very act of helping others heal. Together, they stepped out into the warm sunlight, ready to face whatever came next. Because now they knew, no matter how dark the world might seem, there was always hope. It's always a chance for a new beginning. It's always the possibility of love breaking through the shadows. One bark, one wag, one gentle touch at a time.